Hey guys, it's great to be back with you this week, and as ever we are going to start with a game. So Phil, you've made it up for us this week, so what is it?
Did you get a sense that I was being blamed for what's about to happen? Phil, you made it up for us this week. This week guys, if you want to play along at home, you will need a balloon of any size, any colour, it does not matter. You need to blow it up and then we're going to play balloon keepy uppies, okay? But every time, you hit the balloon, you've got to say a word beginning with the same letter. So we're going to do a random letter generator in a moment. We're going to both have a go. You guys can pause if you've got balloons and you want to have a go at home as well. Should we cut to that?
Let's go.
Let's go. Right, so Sarah, just to reiterate, you've got to do balloon keepy ups, okay? If you fail to keep the balloon up in the air, or if you don't say a word when you touch the balloon, you're out. Okay, you've got to keep it going for as long as you can. Your letter, are you ready?
Yeah.
Is T.
T.
Okay.
Tell me when. 3,
2, 1, go.
Time. T. Tigger. Tiger. Tarantula. Chimpanzee. Chimpanzee.
I got that, it's not a word. Chimpanzee. That is definitely not a word, mate.
I meant trapeze.
Hey, you said chimpanzee. You made up a new form of animal, a new type of ape. I'm sorry, Sarah. We will put a little counter on the screen for how long you lasted then, okay?
Can I get a second go?
No.
Okay, Phil. So your random letter, as dictated by the letter generator, is I. Off you go.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Island, igloo, igneous. I'm really bad at this.
Yes, I think I managed to last longer than that.
Well guys, if you get to have a go with that game, I hope you're a little bit better than I was. I'm a little bit embarrassed about how few I words I could...
It's hard under the pressure of like the balloon coming down and trying to think of a word. Like it's extra like pressure.
It was. I hope you guys found the same. Let us know what your record is. I'd be really interested. I thought Sarah's chimpanzee was a particular favourite word of mine. But Sarah, where are we going next?
As God continued to move through the early church and his followers, the number of people who heard the good news, believed it and chose to follow God kept on growing and growing.
And because of that, it was getting difficult to make sure that everyone was looked after and cared for. So the disciples who were with Jesus when he was on earth decided to share out some of the responsibility, and they sought out people who they could put in charge of making sure everyone who needed taking care of was cared for.
So they chose 7 men who were described as being full of the Spirit and full of wisdom. And one of these men was a guy called Stephen, who was described as being full of faith and full of the Holy Spirit.
So guys, why don't you pause here and jump into our story for today, which can be found in Acts chapter 6 or 7. And as always, you can look down below for a little animated video.
Yeah, as we explore more about Stephen. So for this week, we're going to add in a question time slot to allow you a bit of more of an opportunity to discuss what you think about today's story with those around you.
Yeah, so guys, we're going to list some questions, but feel free to use as many or as little of them as you want. It's just to spark off some conversation.
So first of all, what did you think about today's story?
Did it have the ending that you expected?
What did you think about Stephen?
How do you think it would have felt for Stephen to have people lying about him and trying to kill him just because he was sharing the good news of Jesus?
And how was God with Stephen?
And how did Stephen remain bold and loyal to Jesus?
So why don't you pause here and just have a little talk through some of these questions, or just spark your own conversation.
Stephen is a man who has grasped, he's captured just how amazing Jesus really is, and he understands that a friendship with Jesus is the best thing that he could ever know or have.
Before Jesus ascended to heaven, he warned his disciples that they would face opposition, that some people would not like them for following Jesus.
But Jesus also tells them not to worry or be afraid about what to say or how to reply when this happens.
For he will be with them always and will send his Holy Spirit to give them the words to say.
And as we know from a few weeks ago, Jesus did indeed send his Holy Spirit, and he completely transforms the disciples because now they are walking around carrying the very presence of God within them.
In today's story in Acts 6, we read that Stephen was a man who was known to be full of grace and the power of God, and he went around performing many signs and wonders to the people around him.
And this started to anger some of the Jewish leaders, who were the same ones that refused to believe that Jesus was the promised King and Lord and had him put to death on a cross.
But that God raised from the grave, and then Jesus, who later ascended to heaven and is living in heaven at God's side. And this really angered some of the Jewish leaders.
And they began to argue with Stephen, but verse 10 goes on to tell us that they could not stand up against the great wisdom that the Spirit gave to Stephen when he spoke.
Stephen was not alone when people opposed and argued with him. Jesus, through the power of his Spirit, was able to speak through Stephen.
And in fact, the Jewish leaders had to make people lie about what Stephen had even said as the only way to try and catch him out in the first place and put him on trial.
Just like with Jesus on the cross, the Jewish leaders persuaded the crowds to shout, "Crucify him!" even though Pontius Pilate could not find anything that he had done wrong.
They seize Stephen and they bring him before the High Council, the big deal leaders of that community, and they begin to hurl these false accusations at him, these lies at him.
Yeah, even at this point, God is still totally with Stephen, and those gathered at the meeting look upon Stephen and see that his face is like that of an angel.
And God doesn't force people to believe in him, but he does make it really clear to those who are wondering about God that he is real, that he is alive and he is living today. When asked to defend himself, to answer whether the things that the people are saying about Stephen are actually true,
He uses this opportunity not to back down and say, "Oh yeah, okay, actually, hands up, I'll stop talking about this Jesus because I don't really believe in him anyway." No, he uses this opportunity to tell all of those around him, everyone listening, that Jesus really is Lord and he is alive and living today.
and Stephen's ability to do this, to be this bold and this courageous, is only through the power of the Holy Spirit living within him, who gives him the ability, who equips him, who enables him to be bold and courageous for Jesus and his name.
After Stephen shares the good news about Jesus to be honest, quite a difficult crowd, not those wanting to hear more about Jesus, but those that are really not liking all that Stephen has been saying about Jesus at all.
Acts 7:55 tells us that as the leaders are snarling at Stephen and gnashing their teeth at Stephen, furious at him for what he has been saying, Stephen looks up to heaven and, full of the Holy Spirit, he sees the glory of God and Jesus standing at the right hand of God.
And he says, "Look, I see heaven open and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God." And as while people around Stephen are hating on him, God reveals to him,
"This is my glory. Keep your gaze fixed here. This is where you will find your true treasure." It's almost like God is just directly showing Stephen, you are not alone, for I am with you.
Stephen knows where his amazing home is, that he will get to be with Jesus forever in heaven, and he prays to the Lord, "Lord, receive my spirit."
And then he falls to his knees and cries out, "Lord, do not hold their sin against them." And after he has said that, he then falls asleep.
How amazing that God shows Stephen that he is totally with him throughout and that he need not be afraid because he is totally in control. And this enables Stephen to be able to have that peace to just totally trust whatever happens into God's hands.
Do you notice the similarity between what Stephen prayed when he said, "Lord, do not hold their sin against them," and what Jesus prayed when he was on the cross?
And at this scene is a really key person, a man named Saul, who approves and oversees the killing of Stephen.
And Saul goes on to meet with Jesus for himself, this same Jesus who Stephen knew and who he loved and who he saw, and we'll be looking at that in a few weeks' time.
Stephen's life is an amazing one, lived out with a reliance on the Holy Spirit within him, and it is this moment that causes the good news to be spread all over the world.
As the people of God are scattered beyond Jerusalem and out into all of the earth, sharing the amazing, incredible news about Jesus through the power and help of the Holy Spirit living within them.
Not even this event could silence or stop the people of God sharing the good news of Jesus. In fact, they shared it with even greater boldness, and as a result, so many more people come to put their faith and trust in Jesus. And we too can rely on that same power of the Holy Spirit within us to equip us to share Jesus with those around us with great boldness and courage, because it is not us but his power through us.
Good stuff. Good stuff.